You know, when the president of your country is now afraid of AI because of the latest Mission Impossible movie, it's probably time to rethink this whole. I Welcome to the Cinefanatics. This is the tagline. What the hell was that? That was weird. Like, did something anything? No?
It's probably best to not worry about it, right? I mean, yeah.
Okay. Will do then. Anyways, we are the Cinefanatics. My name's Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
Yes, and if you are watching us, that means you are watching the tagline.
Because that's all we do here.
Make sure we clear that up here.
That's not. We do other things here too.
Yes. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. We're going to have a lot to talk about because, I know we were talking about some Marvel stuff last week, and you know what? Today's Wednesday. We woke up and Marvel just had another bomb dropped on, well, I would say Variety actually dropped the bomb, not necessarily Marvel, but
bomb.
Yeah, there was a lot of Marvel information, so we're going to cover over that. Plus, like a lot of sequel news, box office standings, and whatnot. And
sorry, I've been told that we can't use the word BOMB.
Okay, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Anyways, as we get going, y'all know the YouTube things. Let's get those out of the way real quick. Streamlabs.com/Cinefanatics. You got any questions, comments, issues, complaints, or if you just like seeing us have food in our pantry, that would be a good place to get your thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and, help us out. That would be great. Thank you. Also, patreon.com/Cinefanatics. If you feel like we are worthy of your support and you have the means to do it, please make sure you have food in your pantry first before you help us with ours. Hop on the tier that's good for you. We have a $1 tier and a $5 tier. Whichever one you feel like fits your budget, hop on those. We are just starting a new month today, so we will have the Patreon hangouts probably figured out sometime this next week, and we'll probably have that officially by next tagline. So, anyways, that is it for the standard YouTube things. As for upcoming shows, probably the only thing we have scheduled right now is the next marquee. We just recently did a marquee, this past Friday? It was myself and Lego. We were tier ranking horror villains, which was a lot of fun. It was a huge mess, and man, I had a good time with it anyways, regardless of how messy it could get. So the next marquee is coming up. Will be on Friday, November 17th at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. We are going to be tier ranking family-oriented movies. These aren't necessarily family films. They're just movies where the sense and idea of family is like front and center with the movie.
Family is a big theming for pretty much all of these movies.
So yes, I know the first thing everyone's going to think of, the first joke right off the bat, and it actually is the first movie we put on the list, was The Fast and the Furious. We're not tier ranking all of the Fast and the Furious movies. Apparently, there's going to be another Fast and Furious film coming down the pike, and I believe we will probably look at tier ranking those movies after that one, since that would put it like at 12 movies, which is a good round number for
Are you counting Hobbs and Shaw?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Anyways. So, yeah, family-oriented movies. I just posted on our Discord in the Marquee channel the list of the family-oriented movies that we will be tier ranking. So, if you are a part of the Patreon, even at the $1 tier, you have access to that. Go check out that list. Jot down the movies that you haven't seen and go get those movies watched in time to join us for the Marquee on the 17th.
And we'll probably mention this several other times, especially as people come across this list and haven't heard us talking about it here. This is just 15 movies that have something to do with family. There are a ton of movies out there where family is the theme of the film in some capacity or another. There's a chance we may revisit that theme again, but we just handpicked 15 movies to throw on this list this time around. It's one of those fun marquees where it's kind of a hodgepodge of movies, a little bit of taste for everybody in there. So we want you guys to come hang out on the marquee and enjoy yourselves with a myriad of fun films.
Yeah, I thought that would be a better idea than trying to tier rank Thanksgiving movies, because other than like maybe some horror, there's not a lot of not a lot of Thanksgiving movies available out there. I mean, you've got Planes, Trains, and Automobiles,
and that's it.
And then you've got Planes, Trains, and Automobiles,
and that's it.
There is that that one movie with Steve Martin and John Candy. I believe it's called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That's it. Yeah.
Chris, didn't you have one also that you were wanting to add?
Oh shoot, you're right. There was one. There's one involving a flying vehicle, a driving vehicle, and a locomotive vehicle. Not necessarily in that order, though. I can't remember.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That's it.
Okay, so I mean, as you can see, we're very limited unless unless we want to dive into horror movies. Which, yes, there is that Thanksgiving movie that's coming out, which I am super pumped for because I absolutely love 2007's Grindhouse, and it's about damn time we get that Thanksgiving movie. Like, where's the SpongeBob card? 50 years later.
15 years later.
Or however many years it is. But yeah, so I'm super excited for that. But yeah, it's going to be kind of hard that there's a lot of horror Thanksgiving movies, like one of my favorite, Blood Rage.
Cranberry sauce?
Huh?
Cranberry sauce?
Yeah. It's not cranberry sauce. Yeah, that one.
Cranberry sauce.
Which that movie, I implore anyone to watch it just because it's goofy and silly and surprisingly very well done for a low budget horror movie.
And make sure you have yourself a serving of cranberry sauce when you're
watching. Not cranberry sauce. You could just have a bottle of ketchup so you could constantly tell the rest of the people around you, hey, it's not cranberry sauce.
Anyways, Heinz started making cranberry sauce out of tomatoes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so marquee on November 17th, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, family-focused, family-oriented movies. So, movies watched over this past week. Chris, what have you seen?
Zip.
Who was in Zip?
Nada and no one.
Nada was in They Live. That's such a stupid joke and like a very small reference there. So for clarification, since you probably you haven't seen it.
Good joke.
Yeah, I know. Fantastic. I have to explain
it for me to play off of.
Yeah. Roddy Piper is in They Live, and his character's name is Nada. So as soon as you said Nada, my first thought was his character in They Live.
Gotcha. Let's run it back. Nada.
Oh, okay. Wait, Roddy Piper's dead. This is the worst yes-anding ever.
You did a horrible job of running it back. Usually when running it back, you do the same exact thing you did before.
Oh, okay. Anyways. Yeah.
I got your joke. It's funny.
Good job. Thank y'all for being here and watching. We very much appreciate each and every single person that decides to turn on their computer, laptop, phone, iPad, tablet, whatever device you're watching, and allows us to be a part of your evening. Wow.
Would I though?
I think you would be okay with that.
Yeah, I heard it was awful from like multiple people.
I enjoyed it. I really liked Bullet Train. Even though they keep showing the same scene of like a bunch of people at a wedding reception puking all over the place. It actually wasn't that bad.
Oh, Triangle Sadness?
Yeah. That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lego and Jeremy are on that wavelength with They Live. Tim Franco, Blood Rage plays at the Loft this month for Moda. You know what? One of these days, I'm going to need to fly out there just to go watch a movie in that theater. It's the weirdest reason to fly to another part of the country, but
yeah, who flies to another part of the country to go see movies? Torie's not here.
Well, that was more of an experience, so What else do we got? So you haven't seen any movies. So over this past week, of course, I like, and it's just a matter of like my free time and stuff. I like to catch up on horror movies, specifically in October. Like, obviously, everyone knows I love horror movies in general. I will watch them at any time. I will watch a horror movie on Easter Sunday if I want. Just, they really don't make Easter horror movies, I don't think. I think the most I've seen is the Jayne Silent Bob accosting the Easter Bunny and Mallrats. So
I guarantee you there is an Easter horror movie somewhere
there's
out there.
Gotta be. Now, here's the thing. With my knowledge of horror movies, and especially like I really do, I'm starting to find I have a love for horror movies specifically centered around a holiday. So, like, of course, you got Halloween. We were just talking about Blood Rage, just centered around Thanksgiving. Like the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies that are set around Christmas. I like those kinds of horror movies. New Year's Evil is fantastic. There's a bunch of like New Year's movies, horror movies, but I have yet to see if I could find one about Easter. Beaster Day, Bunny Man. Are those real? Are those real horror movies? Because I will search these out and I will find them.
I see no reason why Lego would lie to us.
I don't either, but I mean, if it's also the idea that like it would just be fun to come up with names of what sounds like cheap indie, like 80s Easter oriented horror movies because the titles are ridiculous.
I knew Lego would find some and would mention them.
For example, there's that movie Chopping Mall. There's no chopping in that movie. They just used Chopping Mall because it was a pun off of Shopping Mall. So, oh yeah, Critters 2 takes place over Easter. I forgot about that. Yeah. So, anyways, yes.
Spending a lot of time talking about Easter horror movies.
Anyway, so I've caught up on a bunch of horror movies. I caught up on the original The Fog, Alligator, which I know was one that Lego was recommending before. I think we talked about it previously. That was actually really good. I enjoyed Alligator. The Fog was all right.
Wait. Real quick,
mm-hmm.
What is Alligator about?
That is about a large reptile.
Godzilla?
I believe it's an alligator.
Doesn't make any sense. I don't believe it.
It doesn't make sense. Why would they call the movie Alligator when it's about an alligator? Just
actually, I take it back. I'm joking. I've seen the image of that, and I don't know why they called it alligator because it was clearly a crocodile.
Yeah. Anyways, I did watch right before we did the marquee. I did want to go and watch Phantasm 2 because I've only seen the first Phantasm and I wanted a better idea of the tall man because he really doesn't do a lot in the first Phantasm movie. So I watched Phantasm 2. I actually kind of liked Phantasm 2 more than the first one, but I did watch Five Nights at Freddy's. There is a review, a spoiler-free review up on the channel. If you would like a short rendition of it. I wasn't a big fan. I haven't really played the video game. I've watched people play the first video game, so I understand what's supposed to happen, and they didn't do any of that in the movie. And I'm puzzled because when you make a movie based off of another IP, you kind of want the part of what made that IP popular to be in the movie. For example, I did say it in the review, but I took it out when editing, is that movie Doom with Carl Urban and Dwayne Johnson. There's a shot in that where it is like Carl Urban holding the weapon from the first person point of view. It's actually probably the best part of the entire movie. The rest of that movie is nigh unwatchable. But like that was what I really enjoyed from that movie, is that first person, just like playing the video game. They didn't do anything from the video game of Five Nights at Freddy's in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And I was like, why? And then we get like this huge backstory on Josh Hutcherson's character, and we didn't need it. We got very little backstory of the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and just it's kind of a mess. So I did see someone was posting on Twitter where they were saying like, yeah, so they're working on Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and they're hoping to use elements from the second Five Nights at Freddy's game. And I was like, how about we use the elements from the first game? We've yet to do that. So
no, they use elements. It's the characters themselves.
That's the thing. The animatronics looked phenomenal. those animatronics are great looking. They were done by Jim Henson Creature Shop, so they look great. I absolutely love them. But the rest of the movie, Yeah, and I mean, I guess kind of spoilery, but yeah, Matt Pat's cameo is really funny in there. So, or I think Matt Pat's in there. I wasn't sure. He might be in there, but hey, it's just a theory.
Oh, God.
That's so stupid. All right, and then the other big one. So we started something last week. I dived into it first, and this is going to be a new thing that we want to do here, time permitting. So the idea behind this new idea is that we allow you, the audience, to choose a movie for us to watch, and we will watch it throughout the course of the week, and then the following tagline will come back and talk about it. I'll talk about the rules over that here in a minute, but last week I went ahead and kicked it off first with Lego recommending Slaughterhouse. I can see why Lego absolutely adores this movie.
Wait, is that an insult or a compliment? I can't tell.
It is a compliment. It is obviously, you could tell if you can't tell from the name, then if you see like the poster image of this, you could tell it's one of those horror movies that's just a dumb, gimmicky horror movie. And I don't mean dumb as an insult, but a dumb, gimmicky horror movie. Goofy horror movie centered around an animal that typically wouldn't be a threat. So, I mean, this is along the lines of like Llamageddon or Zombievers or something like that.
Llamageddon.
Yeah. I'm bringing up Llamageddon because I know Dead Meat's about to do a kill count over it. So I'm probably going to watch Llamageddon very soon just because I like watching their kill counts. And I heard that movie is just absolutely terrible. So I can't wait to see him just slaughter it, I guess. But this was a silly movie. It was fun, but it's not a movie I feel like I'm going to want to put on for regular rotation. It does do. Lego's losing it in the chat right now. Slaughterhouse is fun. It's about a sorority house, and one of the members who's trying to run for president adopts a sloth as a like house mascot. And it's just a whole lot of like college age girls like at each other's throat trying to figure out this whole class president. Well, all of a sudden this sloth seems to be just killing people left and right. It is silly. It's got a weird, it's got a just out there premise. I'm rage quitting, besmirching that. I haven't watched Llamageddon yet. I'm just going based off of what I've heard. Calm down, Lego. But yeah, what are you doing?
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're good.
So yeah, Slaughterhouse was fun, but yeah, it's not going to rank high up there for me. But again, I understand why like Lego or other people may very much enjoy it. It is a fun, silly movie. The sloth made fetch happen. Good job, Jeremy.
Wow.
Anyways, so the rest of the way this is going to work is this isn't going to be for both of us. So we're not going to say like, hey, recommend a movie and both of us are going to watch it. Namely because I'm more open to you recommending a horror movie. Chris is not. So we're going to do this like one at a time. We'll say who it's going to be. First person in the chat to recommend a movie that we haven't seen, that person has not seen yet, that will be the movie that they watch over the course of the next week. So rules for this are we do get to veto. There's going to be certain movies that both myself and my brother will absolutely never watch. It doesn't matter how many people in the chat are recommending it. We're not watching that.
My list is bigger than his.
Yeah, his is definitely bigger. So for point of reference, I'm not going to watch Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, but I have seen a Serbian film. Not saying I want you to recommend movies like a Serbian film, but just know that I do have limits.
I'm 100% not watching either one of those ever.
Absolutely not.
I'm never even mentioning their title.
Yeah. So just know that there's going to be some, please don't take offense to it, but yeah, there's going to be some that we're going to be like, I'm going to veto that. There might be some, like, I would say, like, if anyone recommends horror for Chris, that may be up to either if you just absolutely already know about the movie and you don't want to watch it, or if you would like my guidance on whether or not it's a movie that you could watch. It will be like something like that might be pending approval.
I'm going to say just make it easy. Probably don't recommend horror for me.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
that keeps it nice and easy.
The other one that I wanted to add in is I do want to have a limit to a certain kind of movie. For example, I don't want to be doing this every week and all we get is someone recommending movies like Slaughterhouse. I don't want to be spending all like I would like recommendations of like good classic movies that I should have seen by now that I haven't. Like if I've already seen Citizen Kane, but something like that. I do want like good solid recommendations along with those crazy silly zany recommendations as well.
Just a well-rounded mix.
Yeah. So like Lego recommended Slaughterhouse last week. Maybe put a pin in those kinds of movies again and might be open to it again next week. But like, I want to see if there's any other like good recommendations, and it doesn't necessarily have to be horror for me. So yeah, the idea is also that you follow us on our Letterboxd, which is for both of us, it's the same name that's down here for our Twitter and Instagram. Just follow us on there. You can see what movies we have seen and what movies we haven't seen. So you have an idea of what you could possibly want us to force us to watch. So I did this for the first time last week. As you can tell, Slaughterhouse, again, fun movie. Had a good time. I think this is a really good idea to flesh this out. Chris had a lot of stuff going on over this past week, so he did not participate in it. But you do want to participate in it this week.
I'll take a recommendation this week.
So we will go based off of that. So we'll start off with Chris. First one in the chat to recommend a movie as of right now that Chris has not seen. We'll go with that one. But you have to say, Chris, I recommend, like, let us know that you're recommending it for him. So what do y'all got in the chat? The downside to this is I can't be in the chat because then I would be like, hey, you need to watch this horror movie. Or like, you already know there's like a plethora of movies that I would want you to watch. Lonely Are the Brave from 1962 from Tim Franco.
Lonely Are the Brave.
I'm going to take a guess that that's not going to be like one of those like just out there movies like a Serbian film or something since it's from 1962. I don't know too many exploitive movies like that from 1962. I think like Sallow is probably the oldest one I can think of.
Kirk Douglas. Ooh. Looks like a Western.
Nice.
Fiercely independent cowboy gets himself locked up in prison to escape with an old friend. Ooh.
That sounds interesting. So, new addendum to this, there might be some of these that even though it's recommended for Chris, I might watch it also. Especially if he watches it and then he goes, dude, you've got to watch this.
No, it wasn't recommended for you. Stay away from my movie.
I'm not allowed to watch it.
It's got a good cast. Got a really good cast. I'm down.
Nice. Okay. Well, that will be for Chris. All right. For me, who's got a good recommendation for me? Let's not do the same movie again. But first one to recommend a movie that I haven't seen. What do y'all got?
Slaughterhouse 2. Too Sloth, Too Furious.
Slaughterhouse 2. Electric Slaughterloo.
That's a hell of a word for you to try to say.
Yeah. I just like the first one I did on this was like Slaughterhouse. That's great.
It's a neo-Western with a First Blood feel super underseen.
Jeremy says Infinity Pool. That's the one that came out earlier this year, right?
Yeah, with what's her face from Pearl and X.
Yeah, I have seen that. Because that was Cronenberg, I believe. Yeah, especially if it's going to be like Cronenberg. Yeah, very likely I've seen it.
Oh, yeah. You should watch Moana again.
The idea is it's for like first time movies that we haven't seen. So, who else has a recommendation?
Is there another movie I've been trying to tell you need to watch?
See, that's what I was saying. Like the downside is you and I have movies that we would love for one another to watch, but we can't really participate in this because it's up for the chat to.
Nimona on Netflix.
The what?
Nimona on Netflix.
What is Nimona? I feel like I've heard of that.
I think it sounds like something that was like new for this year, right? That's the other thing too, is there's a bunch of movies that came out this year that I haven't seen yet. Some critically acclaimed ones that people are liking that I haven't seen yet. So I kind of want to watch some of those.
Oh, okay. This looks like it's done by the same people who did Klaus.
Oh, the animation style on this is dope looking.
That looks so cool.
Oh, I think I heard that this is one of those like a challenge like Across the Spider-Verse for the animated award this year. Which, judging based on the style of animation, I can see why.
Yeah. Challenge accepted. Good recommendation there. That would be cool. Starring Chloe Grace Moretz and Riz Ahmed.
Starring Pool Chlorine.
Nice.
Is there a world where we just both watched the movies that the other one was recommended to?
I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, this is going to be a situation where, yeah, it could be like that because the one that Tim recommended for you sounded pretty good. So, all right. So the challenge has been set. It's not really much of a challenge. We're just going to watch the movies because we were going to watch a movie anyways, probably. So, Chris, you're watching Lonely Are the Brave. I'm watching Nimona. And we will be back here next week on the Tagline to talk about these movies. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I really like this idea.
And Lonely Are the Brave is not streaming anywhere, so we're going to have to rent that.
Yeah, it's probably going to be like $2 on Amazon or something.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's like $2 or $3, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's $3.79. That's an odd number, but sure.
Yeah. Anyways, a lot of fun. Thank you for the recommendations. That's gonna be fun to do.
Yes, sir.
So that being said, let's get into the actual movie news.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening. This is what's happening in your world tonight.
We apologize for the interruption.
back to you.
Time for your box office. Can we guess what number one is?
I mean, I'm gonna guess it's Five Nights at Freddy's. That Five Nights at Freddy's dethroned Tay-Tay.
Well, for the third week in a row, Taylor Swift is still in theaters, and she has to shake it off because she's number 2 this week, and Five Nights at Freddy's is number 1. Yes. I mean, I don't know why I'm excited. I'm not necessarily excited about that. Anyway.
Suck it, Taylor.
Suck it, Taylor. I really enjoyed your 1989 Taylor's version album. The number 1 movie this week is Five Nights at Freddy's with a solid theatrical take-in of 80 million. I don't think this includes new signups for Peacock. I'm pretty sure it's only box office. So about $80 million even, nearly. So that's pretty good for, 1, a horror franchise in general, and 2, a video game adaptation. Making pretty solid bank. I think there's a lot of hype around it, though, because people have been wanting a Five Nights at Freddy's movie for quite a bit of time, probably since the first game came out, honestly, and started rising in popularity.
Well, so that's what I covered real quick on that ranking I did, where I ranked like the 3 animatronic killer movies. Banana Splits and Willy's Wonderland were released because of the popularity of Five Nights at Freddy's, and it just took so long for someone to make a Five Nights at Freddy's movie that other studios were able to make these other movies in the meantime. And also keeping in mind, like, there was still also like the pandemic was in there that caused it to stall a little bit. But
sure,
yeah, like what's bad is like these other movies were made, and according to my ranking, I actually like both of those more than I liked Five Nights at Freddy's. So
I didn't know the Banana Splits movie was that recent. I thought it was a lot older.
I mean, Banana Splits was like, I think 2019.
Oh, really?
2018, maybe 2017 at like the latest.
Oh, I really thought that was like super earlier, but Okay. Anyway, Five Nights at Freddy's looking at about 150 million worldwide, so it's doing pretty dang well. It's definitely not going to be the #1 movie based off of a video game this year because Super Mario Brothers has a lot of money, just a whole mess of money, and it's going to have just the craziest, strongest legs in the world in order to get even anywhere near Mario's numbers. So, but I will say 80 million opening weekend domestic when your movie also released on a streaming service is nothing to sneeze at. That's actually really huge for a horror movie, a video game movie, or a movie in general.
The kind of like a side portion to this is they are saying, or Peacock is saying, that Five Nights at Freddy broke records. It has become the service's most watched film or series ever in its first 5 days on the platform. It broke records on Peacock while still pulling in 80 million in the box office. That's insane.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, honestly. Good for Five Nights at Freddy's. And I think a big portion of that too is the PG-13 rating. You can argue all day in the world that it probably should have been a lot more grislier, a lot harder, a lot more gory or whatever. But if it had that R rating, I can't say that it would have made that much money, especially with it releasing on a streaming service too. So,
well, they still said like most of the popularity from that movie, most of the sales came from people like age 30, 35 or younger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, essentially your target audience for the video game as well over the years. That the video game first came out, 2013, I believe? Something like that. So, I mean, you've got like the people who were younger who may be like in their 30s now that want to go back and get that nostalgia hit because they finally got the movie based off of the video game that they loved. So, when they were in their 20s. Yeah. And that's going to be either way. That's going to be the type of people that is for, much like when they released the first Ninja Turtles movie. That was perfect for my age because I had already been into Ninja Turtles for like 3 years already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's where I see a lot more of people of that age group are more of the ones that are more positive for it. A lot of YouTubers who review movies, either critics or pundits, also hearing reviews from their kids, and I see a lot of the kids are like, this is my favorite movie ever.
I was just about to mention friend of the channel, Sean Chandler, took his kids to go see Five Nights at Freddy's. So there you go. I mean, that's why I'm saying it's up that high, is because you got the family tickets. You've got a parent taking children's to go see the movie. Children's, it's already plural, whatever. Taking their children to go see the movie, and that's 1, 2, 3, however many kids people have. Extra tickets added on top of the one ticket. So there you go.
Yeah, like this. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Fortnite's been a major phenomenon for a while now. And we still don't, as far as I remember, we don't have like any actual confirmation that there's going to be a Fortnite movie. There seems to be whispers in the wind that it's happening, last I heard, but
everything that has popularity has talking about it at some point as to whether or not it'll be a movie. It's just a matter of how serious are those conversations and which studio has the film rights or could potentially get the film rights. Fortnite, as somebody who has actually kind of dived in and looked at what the actual storyline of Fortnite is, and there is an actual storyline to Fortnite. It's not just you drop in and play a game. There's actual stories that's continually evolving as the game continues on. That's going to be a hard one to put into a movie. I'm sure someone could, and they probably will at some point, but there's a lot there that is kind of hard to translate to a movie, given it's an ever-evolving storyline as we speak. So, yeah. It would be interesting, though, and it probably would make a ton of money, especially if they do it in the next decade. It's gonna get a lot of... since Fortnite started in 2017, I believe, it's going to get a lot of nostalgia from people who started playing the game when it first came out. Anyway, moving on. Number 2, we've got Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour. Of course, like I said, Taylor Swift bopping down to the number 2 spot with another 15 million. she's done pretty well for herself in the box office, I'd say. I would tend to believe that we are probably not going to see that movie hang on for too much longer. I think it is probably going to start making its way down the box office list now, because I think by this point, 3 weeks in, pretty much everybody who's wanted to see it multiple times in rapid succession has done so already. There's going to be a few people who want to go back and see it again, and they probably will, but it's not going to be as major numbers. So I would expect that Taylor Swift The Eras Tour is probably going to drop to at least number 3 by next week. I don't know what's coming out this week, if anything really is. I know when the Marvels comes out, though, we will see a lot of these start dropping down again.
I don't think there's anything like nothing major that's going to disrupt Taylor Swift. Yeah, the Marvels.
Well, it might hang on the number 2 spot, but we'll see. Number 3, we've got Killers of the Flower Moon. Not getting a whole lot of legs, making about 41 million so far in its total box office run, another 9,300,000 this week. I can't see that one not going to Apple for streaming here pretty soon. Like it's not making the numbers that, of course, studios would like to see from a major film from a major auteur like Martin Scorsese. So I imagine that one will probably see it hit Apple a lot quicker than probably otherwise expected, just so they can try to at least make some money from trying to bring in viewers on the Apple TV subscription. So that one will probably also start falling pretty soon. Number 4, we've got a new movie called After Death by Angel Studios. So I'm assuming it might be like a religious themed film, is what it sounds like.
Well, Angel Studios is the one that used to do Mid Angel.
Based on real near-death experiences. Yeah, so it's people who are talking about their near-death experiences and all that. So interesting. That's number 4 in the box office. Number 5, we've got The Exorcist Believer. Number 6, we got some dogs. Number 7, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Wait. That Angel movie is above The Exorcist Believer?
Yeah.
Suck it, Satan.
Wow. Number 8, we've got Freelance. That's a new release this week. Number 9, Saw X, and number 10, The Creator. There you go.
Nice. Interesting.
On your Barbie watch, it's number 21.
It's 21? That's much higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah. I'm eagerly anticipating that hitting Max here, hopefully pretty soon. Would love to be able to rewatch Barbie, and I think it hasn't like completely finished a total theatrical run, as there's still some theaters playing it in places, but if there's dollar theaters, I think that still exists. It's probably hanging out in those.
Mm-hmm. Oppenheimer's coming back to IMAX in 70 millimeter again.
That makes sense. Try to squeeze a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Try to squeeze a little bit more out of that juicy Oppenheimer. I don't like the
that
words
juicy
that
Oppenheimer. Really?
I don't like the words that are coming out of my mouth there. We can just move on. That's fine.
Chris, let's go do a double feature of Killers of the Flower Moon and then Oppenheimer again.
That sounds like a terrible experience.
To spend like just 3 days at a movie theater
and just sit back the entire time going, man, life sucks.
I have a whole new appreciation for the human race. We are terrible.
I don't want to exist with the humans anymore. I'm done with the humans, especially in this country.
Barbie should be like Rocky Horror Picture Show and just stay in theaters forever. You know, all you need to do is just come up with like a way to interact with the movie, and then just hire like a shadow cast that's reenacting the movie down below. And that's how you win. That's how you do it.
I can think of one right now. The entire audience chants Sublime with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or they say Sublime and everyone just starts singing a Sublime song.
That's okay. That's your box office.
I don't practice Santeria.
I knew you could not help yourself.
Nope. Anyways, so box office. Real quick, I just want to hit these because there was a lot. Now that the writers are allowed to get back to writing, we just got slammed with like a list of like sequels that are going to be made that are coming out soon. Like, I don't know if we've ever seen so many sequels announced or any sequel news announced within such a small, short time period as we have this past week. And this is insane. And I've got a small list here that I've jotted down, but this isn't even the full list. I know there's others that like I may have missed or I can't remember or something like that. Maybe ones I've never heard of, but yeah. Real quick. So they are making sequels to Now You See Me 3. It's Now You Can See Me 3.
It's now they're making sequels to Now You See Me 2, and it's Now You See Me 3.
Correct. In the meantime, we still don't have a sequel to what's that Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe movie? The Nice Guys. No sequel to that, but we're getting a sequel to Now You Can See Me. We're getting a sequel to Sicario 2. So they're going to make a third one. This one doesn't sound like it's going to have Denis Villeneuve attached to it in any way. And I haven't seen the first 2 Sicario movies at all, but I've heard they're really good, so might have to watch them, or if someone ever recommends them at some point for me to watch. They're going to do a sequel to The Black Phone. This was a horror movie that came out last year that I do consider also in like the list of really good horror movies that came out in 2022. Written by C. Robert Cargill and directed by Scott Derrickson, both of whom I got to talk to at Fantastic Fest. They're both of them are just a lot of fun to speak with. But I am super excited that they're going to do a sequel to it. How they're going to do a sequel, I don't know. If you've seen the first one, you're like, okay, how do they make a sequel to that? But I have faith in them, and I believe it's going to be good. The first movie was, I believe, written by Joe Hill, who's like the son of Stephen King, which works because that movie is very Stephen King-ish. Like basically it's dealing with kids. Kids are like the ones that are put in the middle of the horror. There might be something mystical, something magical about the kids or around the kids. So yeah, interesting movie. I can't wait for that. And then also they are doing a sequel to It Follows called They Follow. If you have seen the first It Follows, that was a great movie. That was a great idea. And it was very well shot. The cinematography is amazing. The score on that is really good. It's got a really good like synth score to it. So if you like the music, like say like John Carpenter type of music, or like the synth score to the opening of Stranger Things, It Follows had a really good score that follows that same kind of idea. I don't know what they're going to do for the story of It Follows or for They Follows, because the whole idea is it's a curse that you are cursed with because you had sex with someone. So someone is cursed. They had sex with you. Now that curse is on you. If the curse kills you, then the curse goes back to the person who had sex with you to begin with. So essentially it sounds like They Follow instead of It Follows is all about the curse going after pretty much anyone who's ever had sex. Good luck, everybody. Have fun. But yeah, that could be a very intriguing idea depending on how they do that. And then of course the big one was they announced the title for the next Ghostbusters movie called Frozen Empire, which right now feels like Austin, Texas.
Not even close. This is not the beginning of 2021 here.
Oh, is that when we had that big, stupid ice?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yes, when we were pretty much stuck at home for like an entire week.
That shut the entire state down. Yeah, that was a fun week, let me tell you.
That was crazy.
Yeah, so real quick on that, we just had like, I think most of the southern United States just had an Arctic cold front that blew through. But yeah, it's It's cold here in Texas.
It dropped us down to the incredibly cold temperatures of the 40s.
Yeah.
Which, to
not
be
even
fair,
a month before we were at 100.
To be fair, it was like 105 degrees 3 weeks ago. So it just feels a lot colder than it actually is because we've been used to just dying every single time we walk outside because of how hot it was.
I was at Fantastic Fest, and in between movies, we were standing outside, and it was like 100 degrees outside. So now it's like 1 month later, and we're at 40 degrees. It's so weird, but
which I know there are places in this country that get to 120 degrees, but have y'all experienced the humidity here?
Yeah.
It makes 100 degrees feel like 300.
And wet and sticky. And
you can't breathe.
This Ghostbusters movie is called Frozen Empire, which would make sense because we've had that we've seen the logo of like the Frozen Ghost for a while. Like we've seen that, I think, for at least a better part of this year. And then we also know ice.
We also know that the movie takes place in New York as well, so Empire State Building.
Yeah.
It's that Empire State of mine.
So it seems like basically I could infer that maybe there's another supernatural ghost presence in New York City and it's freezing the city. That'd be my guess. Which means I should probably be a screenwriter.
Either way, I actually did like the last Ghostbusters movie, so I'm kind of intrigued by this one. So
I could
see what happens.
Take it or leave it on the last one. It didn't have as much of like the fun that I liked from the first two.
I could take or leave the entire Ghostbusters franchise, to be honest.
You shut your mouth.
No, they're very okay.
The first movie's really good.
They're very okay films. Good vehicle for Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, of course, but otherwise, I could take or leave the entire franchise. But I am intrigued by this next one as much as I possibly can be.
I think so. That's the thing is, I think I'll be more open to this one since it is bringing the location like back to New York instead of BFE Oklahoma,
which is what they hinted at the end of the this last one. So
yeah, so maybe it might be at least back on the path of where I like my Ghostbusters movies to take place. Kind of like even going back to the 2016 Ghostbusters. It was in New York. Like, it wasn't a bad movie. It just felt a little off, and I'm not sure why. It had nothing to do with the female cast. Stupid internet. But, like, it just, something about it just didn't feel right, but it was still an enjoyable movie.
It felt very disconnected from the rest of the Ghostbusters movies. Not that it needed to be, but it still just felt very disconnected. Even though a lot of the OG cast still kind of popped in and made cameos in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was different. It wasn't a terrible movie. It was. I remember walking out of theater when I saw it. I think it was back in 2016. I remember walking out of theater when seeing it, and going, "Huh, that was actually better than it should have been."
Yeah,
literally, I said those exact words when I saw it. But anyway, other breaking news is that apparently there's going to be a sequel to Break-In 2 Electric Boogaloo. Listen, I was hoping the rest of that joke would come to me by the time I started saying it, but it didn't. So just run with it.
It's going to be called 3 Break, 3 In.
That did not go anywhere close to where I was hoping it would go.
Anyways, let's get on to the main topic because there's a lot to talk about in regards to the news that was released today. So those of y'all who are familiar with The Family, it is time to talk about the Feige family updates. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, it's Marvel over here.
Forget about it. It's okay. Take it easy, sweetheart. Oh, no, that's actually the...
Whoa! Take it easy, sweetheart.
Hey, we're doing segments over here.
It's the Feige family updates. Hey, don't worry about it.
We offended everybody in New York again. Let's go. We're from Texas. Yeah.
Anyways, so Variety released an article earlier today, basically saying crisis at Marvel. Is Marvel in trouble? And
no.
This is a very weird article. Like the writing of it aside, because the writing isn't like really great either, but the way that this is being talked about, it's very weird and strange. And so I just want to kind of like go over a couple of points on this. Obviously, the first thing they're talking about is Jonathan Majors, who is doing a fantastic job on Loki, who had a really good job as Kang in Quantum Mania earlier this year. I think he's been doing a really good job, but obviously the elephant in the room is he's about to go on trial for domestic dispute issues. I believe the trial starts at the end of this month, and it's kind of up in the air as to where his career is going to go from here. A lot of a couple of talent agencies have dropped him. He's still with one. A lot of places where he had endorsements or commercials have dropped him. Marvel's still holding on to him for right now, but we haven't heard anything beyond what was already filmed. At the time, I believe that the original domestic dispute situation started while Loki season 2 was still being filmed.
Or at least in post-production.
Yeah. So, we haven't heard anything from Marvel as to the direction of Jonathan Majors or Kang after Loki season 2. We do know that they've already previously announced that there's going to be an Avengers movie, the Kang Dynasty, and that Kang may still also have a hand in the Secret Wars Avengers movie that's also been previously announced, but that has yet to be seen. But we don't know Marvel's official stance. I would say I believe it's going to be Marvel is taking a step back, wait and see approach with it. They just want to see how the trial goes, because if the trial ends up in Jonathan Majors' favor, then Marvel doesn't have anything to worry about, with the exception, of course, the court of public opinion that may already be tarnished because of this. We'll have to see exactly how that does pay off later on. But yeah, that does throw a huge wrench in this, because Marvel really hasn't had to deal with something like this. DC, on the other hand, has dealt with it a couple of times, more namely the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation. But Marvel really hasn't had this be a situation for them.
DC's had Amber Heard and Ezra Miller.
Yeah. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see where they go. Apparently, one person who has already seen the finale of Loki season 2 is saying that Marvel is truly for the whole Kang angle. I don't know exactly what they mean by that. I don't know if it means that they're screwed as far as the fact that they're still keeping Kang as the major villain, or is the ending of Loki season 2, these last 2 episodes, positioning Kang to be,
well,
I don't know.
As far as the casting for this season goes, Jonathan Majors was reported to be in 3 episodes of Loki, and we've only seen him in 2 so far, and there's still 1 more episode to go with him in it. And in which case, we expect that his character in that will probably have an appearance in the final episode, which is what they're talking about. The final episode is probably going to set up a little bit more in regard to how big of a threat Kang is and is supposed to be for the MCU. So there's a lot there. I love that there's a lot of talk in regards to what do we do? What do we do with Kang? And there's a lot of talk of people assuming Marvel's stance, assuming the studio's stance on this situation, by saying they're scrambling now in regards to the Kang stuff and trying to find another solution. And what do they do in place of Kang should they need to divert and move away from him? And I see a lot of people online talking about you just recast him, and it's not a simple, easy thing to do. I don't think it's an easy thing to do to recast him, especially if you've seen the post-credit scene in Quantum Mania. It's very difficult to recast someone whose face is literally the face of thousands and thousands and thousands of potential characters who have shown up and will probably show up again in the future, and especially a few prominent ones who are going to have a major stake in at least Kang Dynasty, if not other movies leading up to it. So this is not a simple, well, Edward Norton doesn't want to play with us, so we're going to get Mark Ruffalo in here, or, Terrence Howard is asking for more money, so we're going to get Don Cheadle instead. This isn't a very simple one single appearance and recast type situation. This is he's had a single appearance, sort of, not counting Loki. But that appearance is kind of a big deal. That appearance is counting for many, 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 many characters.
Hey, Chris, I don't know if you've heard, but he's kind of a big deal.
I knew that's where you were going to go with that. But yeah, Jonathan Majors kind of is the face of Kang right now, and it's not. If they have to recast him, which that's the only direction that they can't just write out Kang as a character completely, because
there's a movie named about him.
There's a movie named after him. He's too big of a villain in the comics. He's too powerful of a villain in the comics. Like, it makes sense for him to be an entire. It makes sense for him to be the threat of an entire, trilogy of phases, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't work narratively to write that character out completely right now, unless you're doing one of two things. Well, unless you're doing one thing, which is you're trying to establish him as a major villain, which I don't think they have reached that status with Kang just quite yet. I don't think they've done enough power establishment with him. They've just established that there's a lot of him, not that he's super powerful or anything.
That might be what's set up at the end of Loki season 2.
Right. They would need to set up that he's powerful, and then they can pivot and introduce somebody else who dominates him as a character to show that person's true power. That person, of course, that makes the most sense would be Dr.
The Beyonder.
No, Dr. Doom.
I mean, I wouldn't say, technically, I would not necessarily say Dr. Doom is more powerful than Kang.
For the MCU, though, we're not talking about comics. We're talking about what they would need to do for the MCU if they have to pivot.
Possibly.
That's what they would have to do narratively, is they would have to kind of go away from a little bit of the comics base and kind of do something different with Dr. Doom.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we're going into, like, say, the Kang Dynasty. Obviously, that's going to be about Kang. And then we're going to go into Secret Wars. The comic book of Secret Wars, while Kang is involved, Kang is not a major character as far as the overarching storyline. Dr. Doom is a major character in that Secret Wars storyline, only because you basically have the Beyonder is this godlike being who's controlling everything, and Dr. Doom is trying to steal his powers. So it would make sense that Dr. Doom would be like the big evil bad guy by the time we get to Secret Wars anyways, and that Kang may be probably pushed out. I actually believe the way that it was set up is that Kang would probably be defeated at the end of Avengers Kang Dynasty, and that Kang really wouldn't have a hand or anything to do with Secret Wars, or at the very least he dies at the end of Kang Dynasty, but he sets off some kind of a machine or force or something that disrupts the entire multiverse, and that's how we start getting like all like the battle world and all this stuff that leads into Secret Wars. It was all caused by Kang, but Kang won't have anything really to do with the Secret Wars movie. That's where I would predict it would go based off of what I know of the comics.
It's a cause and effect storyline.
Yeah.
Whereas you had Thanos in Infinity War and Endgame, you have the bad guy in one and the effect that he causes in the other.
Yeah. So the other thing that they were coming out talking about was that Marvel was like scared that we need to bring back like all the OG people. People don't like what Marvel's been doing lately. Everyone liked it back when it was like Tony Stark, Iron Man, and Black Widow, and Captain America, the Steve Rogers Captain America. We need to bring them all back. And everyone's like, oh my God, Marvel is failing that they're resorting to these kind of tactics, or bringing back these actors are going to cheapen, like, say, Tony's death in Endgame or something like that. And like, again, if you know the comics, they were very likely going to come back anyways. Because, again, that's a part of that would be a part of the storyline of Secret Wars.
Barring, of course, contract deals and money.
Sure. But I mean, that's definitely something that was probably going to happen anyways. The only difference between now and then, or like now and back then, is we're actually just announcing it now. They were planning on trying to bring him back anyways. So that's not a sign that Marvel's failing or they're trying to pivot to like, let's recapture some of that old magic. That was what they were going to do to begin with. When they announced Secret Wars, that was the first thing that popped in my head, is that's what they were going to do.
What is kind of annoying is us talking about it right now. Not talking about us specifically, but the general populace talking about it right now. Because we are so far off from Secret Wars still. That's not coming out for like at least another 2.5 years or however long. If not 3 years at this point with how movies are getting pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
We're so far away from that. We don't need to be talking about a Chris Evans or a Robert Downey Jr. or a Scarlett Johansson coming back. We don't even know if they're going to get deals, if they are actually for sure 100% going to go that route for the story. And so like all this talk right now about, well, this would cheapen Iron Man's death in Endgame. Pump the brakes. I see this. I see this so much when people are talking about Secret Wars online. I've mentioned this before. All the fan posters or whatever, dropping all the images of heroes from past Marvel movies that weren't owned by Disney or the MCU, like Daredevil, X-Men, Ghost Rider, the old Hulk, whatever, Fantastic Four. Like all these characters that have existed in movies before coming back. And they're going, this is what Secret Wars will be. This is going to be crazy. And I'm like, 1, ew, no thank you. 2, probably not. Probably not. You might get a couple of those. Maybe a few of those will show up. But I think a lot of people are just talking out their butt right now about what they think Secret Wars will look like, and not taking into consideration, 1, that there's a lot of pull the studio would have to do in order to pull off some of these fantasies that people are having. And 2, you got to look at the contracts and stuff and the money and can these actors come back? Will they come back? Does Chris Evans feel like the story is going to be good enough for him to want to come back as Captain America? Does Robert Downey Jr. is he willing to take enough of a payday hit to come back when his character had such a great out at the end of Endgame? And then it does. We do talk about that point. Does it actually cheapen his death? I think there's a way it could, and a way it couldn't, and it's all just so much to talk about right now. I just feel like let's talk about Secret Wars when we get to like the end of 2025.
Yeah. Otherwise, everything else that this article really seemed to be talking about was just like little stuff that we've heard or we've noticed over the past couple of years that has been said plenty of times. It's just really like focusing on that, like, hey, the visual effects are bad. Well, okay, we've already talked about this. We know about this, that people were complaining about the visual effects in Quantumania, and seemingly executive producer who was in charge of visual effects, Victoria Alonso, was let go, seemingly because she was busy working on an Amazon movie, Argentina 1885, which was a conflict of interest, or at least that's what they said. There's nothing from Victoria Alonso's camp either confirming or denying that that was the actual reason that she was let go, other than her just being a scapegoat for the shoddy visual effects. And then it also goes into talking about like the whole visual effects thing. We already know that like Marvel visual effects workers are planning on unionizing to get more of a fair shake at a better work environment, better work conditions. and that Marvel has lately seemingly been something that, or the way they make movies is they just throw everything in, quickly try to get it all scrambled together, and they do work on the movie up until the actual like premiere. Sometimes even after the premiere, before it actually gets released a few days later. So we've heard about this already, but again, this article, the way it was written, is trying to make it sound like this is something new, that it's the downfall of Marvel. It's like this has been happening for quite a while. Like even like Endgame, I remember hearing reports of people being overworked and overtaxed for Endgame. But I also remember hearing those same people were saying like, yeah, but Endgame was such a massive achievement that we understand the work and the sweat and the blood and the tears and everything that went in to make that movie. It needed to be there for that movie. It's kind of like when a chef makes something, you want to taste the love in their food. I want to see that love and that passion that these people have for making it, but not at the extent that I don't want to make that sound like it's an excuse that everyone is free to be overworked as long as we all love and have passion for this project, because that's what the giant studios would be saying to get their way. But it needs to be fair and balanced, as all things should be.
Which, of course, here's the thing. We see something else, because there's other bits of news here with, like, say, Blade coming up here. Mm-hmm. That one of the things reported being that Blade is going to be taking a budgetary hit, where they're looking at trying to make the upcoming Blade movie for under $100 million, which I know that we've heard, I believe Bob Iger has mentioned this or talked about this before, that they are looking at kind of reeling back the budgets that they've been using on a lot of the Marvel projects, in which case they feel like they've been kind of over bloating the budgets on these movies, with the return not justifying the cost. And that's of course happening with a lot of, like, you know, we see a lot of talk right now over, there's just too much oversaturation of Marvel right now between TV, movies. There's just too much to keep up with. You're losing some people because you're telling them they have to watch 8 different shows to keep up with, like, the storyline that's happening in like 3 different movies. And it's just a whole lot. And so we're watching the box office returns kind of start coming down a little bit from where they used to be, you know, around the No Way Home and Infinity War Endgame era. Now we're seeing them kind of reel it back and go, okay, can we make this movie? Can we take a step back and really make these movies for less than $100 million? And I think that's a great direction to go for Blade, because that movie does not need to be a $200 million plus ginormous CGI fest epic. That
it's not Avengers.
Yeah, that character does not need to have that. Basically, it needs something that is a little bit more low key, and definitely does. You know, they put the love in the right places, basically. And so that's where I think that you see them kind of prepping themselves in regards to, one, lower box office returns. If we can make the movie for less money, then when we get a lower box office return, we're still winning, and we can still carry forward and continue to produce great movies. But 2, we're talking about the visual effects departments wanting to unionize. If we make the movie for less money, we can take our time with it a little bit more, and not overwork and stress out the visual effects department, because we can hire maybe a few less people and let them kind of work for a little bit longer, or what have you. I don't really know how the financials of all that works around. I'm not on the business side of things, but I see them taking a more mindful approach. And I think they're prepping themselves for the unionization of the visual effects workers, and trying to get ahead of it a little bit, so that when it comes time for them to make a deal with whether or not the visual effects workers strike or not, Disney, Marvel, they can already be ahead and go, hey, what do you guys want? We're going to make this work because we don't have time for you guys to strike. So we're just going to crack out a deal for you real quick. What do we need to do to help you guys continue putting out fantastic work and not be overworked and stressed out and get sick and everything while you're trying to produce these movies for us. I just see them trying to get ahead of that right now is what it feels like.
Yeah. I'll give you a third one too on that, is the lower budget, especially if they can get that budget like at 100 million or lower, will also allow them to potentially do a Blade movie rated R.
Possibly.
Which I'm willing to bet that they're probably waiting on the results of Deadpool 3. And if Deadpool 3, which is R-rated, does phenomenal, which it's going to, it's Deadpool 3, and we already know we're getting like Wolverine, Elektra. We already know a lot of things about Deadpool 3 that's going to cement people buying the ticket to that movie. Like I like the second those tickets are on sale, that is going to be one of those kind of like Avengers Endgame or Spider-Man No Way Home. Is the second those tickets are on sale, you better be at your computer or on your phone trying to buy those tickets, because I think that one's going to be one that's going to sell out quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that performs well, that may lead them to be a little more open to doing an R-rated movie. So like Blade would definitely, I feel like Blade definitely needs to be R-rated just because of the subject matter, vampires. I don't think, like, if you go back and look at the 98 Wesley Snipes movie, I don't think it would have been anywhere near as good as it is if it was PG-13 instead of R.
I do think, I'm kind of in a different camp on that. I do think that they can absolutely make a perfectly fine, a perfectly good Blade movie at a PG-13 level. I think it could work. I'm one that doesn't necessarily think that movies that a lot of people say should be rated R always do need to be rated R. And I think if they keep it PG-13 and they want to keep it PG-13, I think they can still pull it off.
So I would use for comparison that I feel like is a pretty good comparison is 1997's Spawn was released PG-13. Yeah, and there's definitely some parts of that I was like, man, this needed to be rated R. Like it didn't feel like Spawn the comics as it should have, and it's because they were limited by that PG-13. Now, the point being said on that is they did release the unrated or R-rated cut when it came out on home video. And they really didn't add anything to it. I think the worst case scenario, I think they added like a shot of Violator picking up a person and like shaking him and like maybe messing with him. And then there was an extra shot of Al Simmons on fire as he's dying. And that's it. Mm-hmm. You can't show a person actually lit on fire in a PG-13 movie, or you couldn't at that time. I think you can now, but at that time you couldn't. So, I mean, the stuff that they added between the PG-13 and the unrated version, very negligible. It really didn't matter.
I just think it all comes down to how good's your story. Honestly, I think you can make a really good story for a Blade at PG-13. You could argue that some of the stuff that you want to do, you can only do at R. I think here's my example. Here's the example I'll put out for this. Let's talk about this last episode of Loki. There was a scene in there where there was something that happened that was very horrific, and they didn't show what it was. So that cube with all the people as it was shrinking, and you knew those people were getting crushed inside the cube.
But man, that left it up to your imagination.
They left it up to your imagination.
My imagination is bad.
It was a very horrific thing. It was a very awful, terrifying thing, and it worked. It worked without them having to do anything that was R-rated about it.
Would I have liked to have seen that just to see like how the visual effects could have pulled it off? Probably not, because that just would have been ew. And I don't think the special effects actually would have done anywhere near as good as what I could imagine that scene being.
You don't always need to do the things that make something R-rated in order for the effect and what you want to happen still come across correctly. So I do argue that they probably could still make a really good. And I think the likelihood right now is higher that they are still pushing forward on a PG-13 Blade, just because, again, it's tying Blade into the entire MCU. And right now, Deadpool 3 is about the only exception that Kevin Feige has gotten anywhere close to sounding like he's willing to give for movies in the MCU. He has been on record multiple times stating the MCU will never go rated R. And so I don't really think that anything outside of Deadpool 3, which only gets the R rating because it's the third movie in an established franchise that was already rated R. That's the only reason that movie is staying R.
Yeah, because we hate to see any other big budget action movies that were R-rated previously, and by the time they got to the third one, they're like, you know what, let's do PG-13. You know, if it was a big budget action movie that starred Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dolph Lundgren and Jason Statham, like, you know, if they were to make this big budget movie that's full of these action heroes and action stars, and all of a sudden on the third one, they're like, let's do PG-13.
Weird.
God, what a stupid idea.
Yeah, so that's why they're keeping Deadpool 3 rated R. But I imagine he's going to be the outlier. He's going to be the one exception. And next time we see Deadpool in an MCU project, if we see him in another MCU project after Deadpool 3, it's going to be a PG-13 project. That's going to be the last R Deadpool that we see.
Which
so.
you know they have to do the joke of Deadpool's in there like, what the fuck? And then he's bleeped and he's like, wait, what the bleeped again? And like, he just keeps getting, why can't I say that word? Oh, I'm in a PG-13 movie. That's why. Like,
Disney wants us to be PG-13 now. Got it.
Or if they actually go the one step further, I don't know how likely they're going to do this, but I mean, the door's blown open with Guardians Volume 3 now. But if he is able to say it once and then he tries saying it again and he's immediately bleeped and he's like, what the hell? I just said it. I'm in PG-13, aren't I? That would be hilarious. I would love to see that. So,
or if he does, hey, I know this is a PG-13 movie and you only usually get one and that's all you get. So I'm just going to, oh, wait, I just used it, didn't I?
Damn it.
Damn it.
That'd be funny. Yeah, so I don't know. Overall, my opinion of this article, again, the writing on it is, I said this at the beginning, the writing is a little weird. What made me think about this is there's a part in here where it's talking about Feige and how like important he is and stuff. It's like Kevin's real superpower, his genius, has always been in post-production, getting his hands on movies and making sure they're finished strongly, the source adds. These days, he's spread thin. And then immediately after that sentence, it has the caption, it has the, in parentheses, Feige declined to comment for this story. It's because he's spread thin. He's not able to sit here and comment on every single stupid news article about the MCU that pops up. Did you not just read what you just wrote before?
The Marvels is coming out. He's a little busy right now.
Yeah, like, it's just bad writing aside from this. A lot of what this article is pointing out is trying to point it in a negative light, and I don't believe it actually needs to be. Like, there's not really anything I've read in this article that is in a negative light. Sure, it's just kind of reiterating things that people have already been talking about on Twitter. The whole thing of Marvel being spread thin between movies and TV shows constantly going on. Yeah, you're right. That is going to lead to some kind of fatigue in general. It used to be Marvels were big event tentpole movies. Like, we'd get maybe 2 a year and you were just always waiting and chomping at the bit for that next movie. Now it's like, oh, we still got to wait like 3 months for a movie. Well, there's a TV show I could go watch. There's always something Marvel related available for you to digest. And what's sad is like even Star Wars is starting to go that route if they ever would make another freaking movie. But Star Wars TV shows are very plentiful right now as well. And I don't mean to make that sound like a full-on complaint because Ahsoka was phenomenal.
It's not. I've loved pretty much every Star Wars TV show they've made. Star Wars is actually killing it right now on TV.
Yeah, but it's just a lot of it. And yeah, it's kind of like here on YouTube. What was it? I was telling you the other day that I can't remember the details of it, but there was something coming up where I was talking about I want to do like maybe a YouTube short ranking video like every day for a week. And you were like, oh, let's pump the brakes on that because the almighty YouTube algorithm would not like that. You can't pump out content daily and make it seem like it's some big deal. YouTube doesn't like you for doing that, and people generally may not watch it for that, especially like, say, this particular channel where we still have less than 2,000 subscribers. We're not going to have the amount of followers. Like, not all 2,000 of those subscribers are coming and watching any content that we pump out every single day. So
also, you got to think about where we're at in terms of our schedules and our time to create content as well. And there's just that's how you burn out. That's how you burn. You gotta ease your way into it till a point where it makes sense to take up most of your schedule, where you can let it take up most of your schedule. What you're talking about is just way too much for us to be able to handle. So
I mean, it would be fine if it was something that like we could do full time. If we got to the point where Cinefanatics could be a full-time job for one or both of us, then fantastic. I absolutely wouldn't mind doing that. That's where I see, like, say, like Sean Chandler and Cody Leach. Both of them do content pretty much daily. There's always some video on their channel daily, but that's their job. They actually do this full-time while they have a family and all the other responsibilities that adults have. Kind of hard to do that when this is still kind of like a hobby for us, even though I would like to be able to have the experience of making this something that I do constantly because I have the knowledge and the love of movies. So
ADHD aside,
that too.
Marvel's definitely able to put out content, but I think what this Variety article touches on and what we need to really take into consideration, I think what they're going to start taking into consideration, and what I feel like we've already heard them taking into consideration, is the slowdown of what exactly they're pumping out. Because, listen, Secret Invasion, that thing took, my opinion specifically, that thing took such a hit in quality because they needed to get it out there, and they needed to get the show out there with Nick Fury in it, and that show should, one, it should have been a movie, and two, should have had more time and love poured into it. It felt rushed. It felt cheap. I'm going to forget its existence. I really am. And I think that's a large problem that Marvel's having with the wider audience, the wider consumer base. So, hopefully we see this fix, and hopefully Variety puts out articles in the future that don't sound like they're trying to drum up views and clicks off of absolutely nothing that we should be worried about, because this was already what Marvel was planning on doing anyway.
Anyways, that is going to do it for this tagline tonight. Whew, that was a lot of stuff. Thank you, Variety, for giving us an article for us to dissect for like 30 plus minutes. That was great. Anyways, what else do we have going back to? So we have the marquee coming up on November 17th, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Again, that's going to be movies. I want to say focused on the family, but that's something else completely different. Movies that are family oriented, not necessarily family films, but movies where family is the heart and root and soul of the movie.
The theme.
Yeah, the theme. Oh, that's a good word. I should remember that. Anyways, so that is coming up again. If you are on our Patreon, even at the $1 tier, you can go to our Discord right now. In the marquee channel, you can see the list of the 15 movies that we will be tier ranking. So go check that out. Watch those movies. Come join us live in the chat so we can see where your opinions on these are as well. Otherwise, so that is coming up. And yeah, I think that's it for most of what we have coming up. We'll talk about more Captain Marvel. I know we're going to do like a review and stuff after we see the movie next week. Go check out what we are doing on YouTube Shorts. And I mean, follow us on the Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the Cinefanatics. Lately, I've been doing ranking videos, and I'm pumping those out like real quick, like 1 minute long. Yesterday for Halloween, I dropped a ranking. I ranked all 13 Halloween movies in 1 minute. So go check out that ranking if you want to see my opinion on where the Halloween movies stand. I did the other one where I mentioned earlier, ranking all the killer animatronic movies. So Five Nights at Freddy's, Banana Splits movies, and Willy's Wonderland. Go check that out for that ranking, even though I just said the order. So Go check those out. Those are fun to make. I actually am really enjoying those, and I'm probably going to be cranking those out more often, just because they're fun, they're quick, they're easy to digest, both in watching and in making. So come follow us. We're doing a lot of fun stuff. We will be also posting those videos because of how short they are. We'll probably post them on Twitter and Instagram for you to see that way as well. Yep. So basically what I'm saying is make sure you follow us at the Cinefanatics on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you can also follow me personally at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, also youtube.com/@RobertAdamsMLP.
And you can follow me at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, as well as twitch.tv/ChrisAdamsMLP.
Yeah, so thank you to everyone who's watching. We very much appreciate all of you being here. Make sure you hit that like button. Thank you for commenting, those of y'all who are in the chat. Thank you for the recommendations on films. We will be talking about those next week. I'm eager to get into that again. That was a lot of fun. And if you're watching this on a replay, again, make sure you hit that like button and make sure y'all subscribe. Again, we're getting close to that 2,000. Get us to that 2,000 mark so we can start focusing on 5,000. That's where we want to be headed in the right direction, especially as we close out this year. So thank y'all for being a part of this. Thank y'all for watching. We very much appreciate y'all being here. We will see y'all next week. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye now. Bye now.